Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts. Redux of an animal that I have done before, and so it was actually nicknamed the Terminator pig, and it used to be called Dino, but you see, it used to be Dinohyus, but now it is Daeodon. And so, reason why is because you see, Dinohyus is not a valid name anymore. It is actually a synonym, which means is that it's another name that was given later on. But you see, the person that actually gave the, because you see, the thing is that Dinohyus bones are actually the same thing as Daeodon bones, and so that is pretty much are the same bones as Daeodon, and so that pretty much sums it all. And so Daeodon lived in the Miocene around 29 to 19 million years ago, and was over 10 feet long, and would have actually been as tall as, pretty much taller than a human, pretty much taller than me, just a bit over 6 feet. I'm 6'2", so that thing could actually be 6'5" if it had to, and so and it weighed close to 2,000 pounds, which is astounding for an animal that size. And so for a long time, people actually thought that entelodonts were actually more likely relatives of the pig, but even though more research has actually shown that that entelodonts are actually kind of a little bit further away from pigs. They're actually kind of more closely related to hippos, believe it or not. It's actually kind of interesting. And so instead of being Terminator pig, it actually should be called Terminator hippo. And so that would actually be pretty interesting to think. It's like a giant hippo that was actually omnivorous, that actually probably did eat meat probably like 50% of the time, or even 60% of the time. And so that actually is a very interesting thing to think about. And Edward Drinker Cope actually named Daeodon, believe it or not, back in 1879. And so this was like around near the end of the Bone Wars, and so that was actually pretty interesting to think about. And you actually see is that Dinohyus has actually got these really huge canine teeth that are like this big around. That is actually incredible. And so that thing is designed to crush bone very easily. Because if you look at the teeth of entelodonts, they are really well designed to actually tear meat out of a carcass, which is actually just astounding. And they have an incredible bite force, probably much more powerful than a hyena is today, which is actually unbelievable. So you're actually are looking at an animal that probably has the most powerful bite force of any land mammal that ever existed. So that is actually showing how powerful the jaws really are. They can actually get possibly pretty close to 3,000 pounds per square inch, which is astounding, because they're probably more likely scavengers, considering that they probably did crush up a lot of bones to get to the nutritious marrow. And marrow is very nutritious, because you see, because it's a healthy fat, and so that actually will help them actually get their nutrition needs that they really have to get. And so that kind of thing. Daeodon would probably be more likely feasting on, in terms of meat, in terms of the herbivores that are around. They were probably feasting on the calicotheres. They were probably feasting on early rhinos. They're also feasting on horses and camels, all those sorts of things. But even though it was actually considered to be a large animal, I would say probably the one animal that would actually be considered to be its rival were the bear dogs. The bear dogs, Amphision, would actually be the ones that would actually probably give a lot of trouble to Daeodon, because first of all, bear dogs are smarter, and they actually are probably more pack hunters than anything else, considering that they're relatives of both bears and dogs. But even though you don't see that many bears cooperating in a group that much, I mean, if you look at grizzly bears or brown bears in Alaska, you definitely see them actually in large groups in rivers. But that's just mainly because they're actually together. It's because the salmon are actually there, whenever they need to spawn. and so that the spawning time of salmon, and that's why you see a bunch of grizzly bears and brown bears actually converge together in large groups, is because they need to actually get to eat their salmon. But they don't actually cooperate with each other. They actually just are there for their share of their of the prey that they need. And so Daeodon probably did not actually have the capabilities of hunting in packs, because it relied more on instinct than actually than intellect. And then if you actually look at like say Archaeotherium, which might actually have the same brain, nearly the same brain as Daeodon, then you actually have an animal. These types of animals, Entelodonts, were not really that quite intelligent. They were actually more towards brawn than brain, and that's why after, say, 25 million years ago is when really you start to see the mammals race starts to become more about brains rather than brawn, and that's why brain power was actually becoming more of the better solution to survive. It's because you need to be intelligent enough to actually survive. And so that is actually the reason why Daeodon went extinct, is because, first of all, bear dogs came in, and that's when you actually have like the pack hunting animals start coming in. They were actually more intelligent, and also they could cooperate together in a group and actually hunt a lot more better, and they can actually tear apart a carcass a lot better than Daeodon can. That's why we do find Daeodon teeth that actually have tooth spalls. And that's because, you see, they keep biting bone all the time with their canine teeth and their premolars, and that actually causes more damage to their teeth. And see, that actually is a problem. And bear dogs, they actually crack bone a lot better than Entelodonts. If you actually look at Amphicyons, the largest Amphicyon skull, you would actually think like, oh yeah, this thing definitely have the teeth structure necessary to bite through bone a lot easier than Daeodon and other Entelodonts can. And so, but also the thing is that once you actually are more resourceful to scavenging, you're not going to survive very long, and so that really actually becomes a problem. And also, once the plant life actually starts changing as well, you're not going to feed, and that's probably the reason why Daeodon went extinct, is because, you see, it could not adapt to changes in the environment, and also could not compete against new predators. And that's the reason why Daeodon went extinct. But mainly climate change is probably the better reason why Daeodon went extinct. And Daeodon probably did run fast, but even though they had hooves, so they do not grab their prey with claws. That's because, you see, if most predators today, they actually have claws, mainly like dogs, cats. They use their but mainly dogs don't use their claws very much. But you actually see cats use their claws a lot. It's because they need to grab their prey a lot easier. But the thing is, grabbing your prey does not mean that you're going to be a great hunter. And so, but that's why mammals are actually a very useful subject to actually look at in terms of predatory behavior. It's because we see them a lot today, and Daeodon actually had hooves, and so you actually have to find something that actually is an animal that actually has hooves and probably is omnivorous. Until they chose pigs, and so pigs are actually kind of a really good comparison. But even though pigs don't kill, they don't kill at all. They're omnivores, but they scavenge most of the time. It's because, you see, if you give a pig, say, just like the sloppy stuff that it would actually eat all the time, and like a domestic pig can in a farm, you would actually see that there is bits of, like, say, bone, some intestines and all that other stuff, because, you see, it's because they can digest that better. And so, but pigs are omnivores today, and so that's a good reason why you can actually make the case is that they are closely related to pigs, but even though they're kind of more towards hippos. But even though hippos are different, though, so Entelodonts are actually in between pigs and hippos, and so that actually kind of shows where they're where the phylogeny or the tree or where the tree actually kind of goes in terms of those types of hoofed animals. And so that's it for now, and next week we'll actually be doing a new answering questions episode. So if you got any questions about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinochris71@gmail.com, or just go on my Facebook page, Prehistoric Facts of Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions on the wall or even in the comments section on any Facebook post. And just remember, you gotta like the Facebook post. And remember, keep your questions short to the point. You could also follow me on Twitter at CSGRALL. That's my Twitter page. I post pretty cool stuff on there. Also, take care of people around you, and also for younger people out there, then make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. So best motivation you could have for good education. It's very important to have a good education. So with a good education, you get a good job in the future. All right, that's it for now. I'll see you guys next week, and happy Halloween, everybody.